Today on the Spring Hills podcast, we've got a one-on-one conversation with Spring Hills staff member Erika Kral. Now, Erika is our social media director, and she's been on staff here for a few years. So we want to give you the opportunity to get to know her a little bit more, find out about her story, how she became a Christian, and what she does here on campus. Now, as I said, she's the social media director, but that is not all she does. She's got her hands on a lot of different projects, including editing the online services. She's often in the coffee kiosk before the services on campus, and then during the services, she's usually behind the computer running all of the video stuff. So she is involved in a lot of different things. Now, the other thing about this podcast, the one-on-one series, I typically pick out an intro song that I feel represents our staff members the most. So today I'm very excited about the song that I've picked out for her. Let's get to the conversation with Erika Kral. Today, our guest is Erika Kral. Did I say it right? Kral?
Yeah.
Okay. Erika's on staff here at Spring Hills. So, Erika, welcome to the green room. I said that like you've never been here. Well, this is the green room. The podcast isn't the green room. I said that like you've never been here, but
feels like a club.
How about welcome back to the green room? We've been doing these one-on-one interviews just on the podcast feed with the intention of giving our church kind of the opportunity to get to know our staff. So, thank you for coming and doing this. So far we've had Brett, Garrett, and John. And so you're the first female.
Wow, what an honor.
But yeah, so Brett and I had picked for his podcast Brett didn't pick it, I picked it, a hard rock intro song.
Oh my
and then with
goodness.
Garrett, I had like a hip hop one, and then with John, it was country, and I haven't decided on what yours is going to be yet.
Wow.
So we'll see what that's going to end up being. You don't get to have any say in it. I just listen to it, and I go, that sounds like Erika.
That fits them.
We'll figure it out later.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I want to start at the basics. So first of all, let's just tell everybody who you are. How would they know you here? You've done this before on the podcast, but just in case they didn't hear that one, tell everybody who you are and why they might know you here at Spring Hills.
Hi, my name is Erika, and I'm on the Spring Hills team.
Okay, so that's
AKA the news.
The bummer about that is now people haven't seen it in 4 months.
Well, I was on the last 2 weeks as the online host.
Oh, that shows you how much I watch online.
People were gone. Yeah. Well,
Great.
You're a little preoccupied on the weekends now. But yeah, the news. I help out at a lot of events. I help out at Motion. And then I'm just around on the weekends all weekend. I'm the girl with the camera.
Right.
So people know me by that too.
The common theme that seems to be happening with everybody on staff so far is that everybody does so many different things that nobody knows how to explain their role.
Yeah.
Where are you originally from?
Windsor.
Nice. Okay. So you grew up there, born and raised?
Yes.
And you're not, well, not now. You're not in Windsor, but you're close enough. What kind of kid were you?
Like personality-wise?
Yeah.
Oh, I would say, I was definitely a tomboy until like 5th, 6th grade. Literally never wore my hair down until then. Played a lot of sports. Shy, but like to be busy, like to be social.
Yeah.
So
sports, that was your hobbies?
Yeah.
Did you have other ones? Were you artsy at all?
A little crafty.
I just dropped my phone because you know why? Because Kiki has texted me 23 times since we started this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So let's see. Hobbies. Yeah. Other hobbies? Did you have sports?
I was kind of crafty, but other than that, yeah, I just stuck to sports, mostly soccer and swimming.
Okay, cool. Swimming.
Yes.
Dude, did you know John Knapp was a water polo player?
I did.
I didn't know that until last week. I asked him if he shaved his legs, and he hesitated. So yeah, hobbies. Okay, so when you were a kid, did you have a main like dream job?
Yes, actually. I grew up wanting to be a nurse.
Oh.
When I was in high school, I shadowed nurses and did my senior project on it, applied for nursing school, going into college, got accepted, went as a nursing major my first semester, got there. They do this thing, this school I went to Azusa Pacific University. Shout out.
Don't worry.
Shout
I was
out.
going to be bringing that up later.
I went there and they do this thing called Thrive in Your Major. So like during orientation week, they bring you in with all the other students who are entering freshman year in the same major as you, and they have all the professors and directors of the program tell you all about what you're going to be doing, what life looks like for the next 4 years. And everyone around me was like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be so hard. The next 4 years is going to be so hard, but it'll be worth it. And I was like, not worth it. I'm out.
Like at orientation?
Yeah. I was like,
that quick? You didn't even get to classes?
No,
That's amazing.
That was when I knew. And I was on track for like 4.5 years. And so, cause I just needed some like other sciences as my prereqs.
Yeah.
And so I was only in science classes my first year, and I was like, nope, I do not want to do this. So became like, well, I didn't technically, I exited the program.
Okay.
And then I was like going between social work because I knew I loved working with people and helping people. Ministry crossed my mind, business crossed my mind.
Yeah.
But I really had no idea until like another year in.
Okay.
And then I became a business major.
I am impressed that you knew that you were like, no, I'm out, because
that was
a lot of
thing.
people
Saved me time.
might be overconfident and be like, oh, I got this. This is going to be a piece of cake. And then it's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No. How would your friends describe you? So like if I were to go to Israel, Kiki, Kath, Ashley, and just say, hey, give me 3 or 4 words that describe Erika, what would they be?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Hardworking. Probably.
That's a prerequisite to be on staff here. You are not allowed to come here and not be a hard worker.
It's true. It's almost like our
just administrative in
Achilles
general.
heel. That's true. Yeah, hardworking. Probably creative, I guess. I honestly don't know what else. If you ask Kiki, we're the people that bring out the crazy in each other. So
okay, so tell us a little bit about your family growing up.
Okay. I grew up, one sister, she's 6 years younger than me. My parents were together until I was in 5th grade, so I was about 11. And like my family was the family that would go on like 3 or 4 vacations a year, Disneyland, camping. We went to Oregon a lot. Oh gosh.
Like, was there one, if you went 3 or 4 years, was there one you looked forward to the most?
Camping in Disneyland, because who doesn't like Disneyland? And camping,
Caitlin doesn't like Disneyland.
Well, you should pray for her.
I have been for years.
You also don't like peanut butter and bacon, so I judge you as well.
That's true.
You're perfect for each other.
I'll have to put a poll up and be like, which is worse, not liking Disneyland or not liking peanut butter and bacon? See, if I just didn't like peanut butter or just didn't like bacon,
bacon's more
nobody would
understandable.
care. But it's both of them. Since it's both of them, people are like, hold on. That doesn't
Something's
make
wrong
sense.
with you.
So you guys went on a lot of vacations.
Yeah. And I really liked camping and Disneyland. Okay, I said that. But camping because we would go with like all of our neighbors. And so that was always really fun because everyone was like a year or 2 younger than me or older. And so just a ton of kids my age.
That's cool. What did you guys do when you were camping? Like on the lake, jet skis,
that
kind of stuff?
It was more like river, like places that had rivers. But bike riding, s'mores, hiking, going to the river.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Camping was something. It's actually the other day Jen asked me, she was like, Garrett, I heard you don't like camping.
I heard that as well.
Why is this going around? Why is this a thing? So bacon, peanut butter, and camping, is this a problem?
Camping. Yes.
I was?
Yes.
Who invited me to go camping?
Sean and Jen. Did they not?
Oh, maybe through Caitlin. I didn't hear anything about it.
Maybe
that's why Jen asked me that.
Yes.
I don't know. I did say, I asked Caitlin the other night, is it the only reason we don't go camping is because you think I hate camping? Because I can push through that. That's fine.
What are you going to do without all your showers every day?
That's exactly right. Okay, so your relationship with your dad, that's kind of a heavy story. So do you mind sharing that with us a little bit?
So when I was in 5th grade, we were in Oregon on a family trip, and my parents got a call from our next door neighbor, and they were asking if we knew of anyone who would have any reason to egg our house and their house, because both of them had been egged. And we were like, no. And they were like, okay, well, maybe it was just someone, their teenage son was in high school, and then the neighbors on the other side of us, their teenage son was in high school. And so they're like, okay, it could have been a prank on them, and they got the wrong house. But then it kept happening, and it only kept happening to us. And then come to find out, my dad had an affair, and then the woman he had an affair with, their teenage daughters and their boyfriends were the ones who were coming and egging our house. So for about a year, that happened. And then they just kind of stopped.
Was it a year before you knew what was happening?
No, I knew like after a couple times, because I would like see my parents fight more and like hear things, and I was like, put two and two together. And then, so that went on for about a year, and then my parents were working on their marriage, and then about a year later, my dad had another affair, and then that time he moved to Novato area, and then he was coming back and forth to see us every couple weeks for about another year. And so by this point, I'm in 7th grade, and hadn't seen my dad for a few weeks, and he sent me a birthday gift in the mail because he couldn't come on my birthday. And so I went on my birthday to go get it and brought it back in the car and went to go open it. And I realized that the return label said Hawaii. And that was when I realized my dad had moved to Hawaii, and he didn't tell anyone. No one in my family knew. And then I started calling and emailing him, asking why he had moved and why he didn't tell anyone. And basically just told me it's, none of my business, and he's an adult. And like I had questioned why he got me the gift he got me, because he had specifically asked me what I wanted, and that was not it. And he told me I should be grateful, and that his wife picked it out. That
he'd gotten married?
Yeah, he had gotten married.
And did you know that? Or was
no. So that was my birthday gift when I was 13. But then, yeah, there was just like a lot of conflict in our relationship, arguing a lot over the next 2 years. And then he blamed my mom a lot. And I was just like, I don't really want this in a relationship with my dad where we're just constantly arguing and he's not taking ownership of his taking ownership of the decisions he's making. And so I just kind of stopped answering the phone and haven't talked to him since 9th grade. Gosh, how old was 14? So 11 years, and haven't seen him in
Has he
13.
tried to reach out to you at all?
He tried like once or twice after that, but it was never really like an apology. And so I just didn't really want to give it the time, because I didn't want a relationship with someone who hadn't changed and was still just, playing the blame game, and they can do no wrong, even though it was very clear that they were a huge part of the problem.
Yeah.
So.
If you look back at that story, is there something that you see in the circumstance that you can see now as an adult that God used for good?
Oh, yeah. So because of all that, I was very down and depressed, and just kind of like searching in.
You were 13?
Yeah, searching in friendships and relationships for just kind of like feeling loved. And eventually my non-Christian friend, who as far as I know is still not a Christian to this day, invited me to go to Mount Gilead, which is a Bible camp out in Occidental. And that was when I heard the gospel again, and it really sunk in, and I realized that, everything I'm looking for is found in Christ. And so that was when I became a Christian. So
had you grown up in church at all?
I had gone to Windsor Christian till 4th grade, but my view of God was always believe in God so you don't go to hell. Which is true.
Was that an influence from your parents, or was it just you were young and you weren't?
No, I was just young, didn't really get it. Really stuck or really held on to the whole, if you don't believe you're going to hell, and not any of the grace of God, and that, Christ died for us. So, so that we could have a relationship with him. So I got the second part when I was older, and yeah.
Yeah, so. That actually, we'll get to that in a minute, just a little more in detail, but when did you become a Christian? Was that at
when I was
Gilead?
14. Yeah. So the year I stopped talking to my dad, when I was in 9th grade, right before that. So going into 9th grade, I went to summer camp, became a Christian. So right before high school. So high school was fun too, because I realized, I don't want to hang out with any of these popular kids anymore, because they're all not great people and getting into the wrong things. And so I was kind of a loner in high school.
Yeah. We have a lot of that in common. Now we have very different stories, but that's very similar to my story with I just completely switched. I uprooted my whole life as a 14-year-old to go, I'm going to hang around with these people for the next 4 years. I'm going to become these people. So I'm going to get out of here. And I switched schools.
They're fine in moderation, but who you really are who you hang out with.
Or are you the influenced? Yeah. And I knew at that time I was the influenced.
No, for sure.
It was when you're 14 playing varsity basketball, you're not going to be the influencer with 18-year-olds. Like, no, that's just kind of how that was. So what impact did becoming a Christian as a 14-year-old have on your relationship with your family? You already kind of mentioned your friends, but you can go into more detail.
So after I became Christian, I ended up coming to church at Spring Hills because my counselor at Mount Gilead had invited me there. And I didn't know anyone. I ended up seeing like 2 people from school over the next couple of weeks come to youth group. And so that kind of incentivized me to keep going because I was like, okay, I know someone here. That's kind of nice. And then I started to make friends in the youth group and then got involved in kids ministry. And then just kept getting more and more involved. And then that kind of actually pushed my mom away from wanting to come to church because she was like, all you ever want to do is go to church. And I don't know. I just don't think she really liked it. And like
caused some division.
Yeah. Just because it's like, wow, you changed a lot and now you never want to be home. You always want to be at church and you never want to spend time with me. And it's like,
and your sister was still pretty young.
Yeah. And it's like, well, you are in high school. Like I was in high school. So you're getting to that point in your life where you don't want to spend as much time with your parents. And then I had found new friends who I actually enjoyed hanging out with and they happened to not be at school. So the only time I could see them was at church or, was more likely to see them. So yeah, it kind of like pushed my mom away. And then my sister I wasn't really close with until I got older. Just because,
6 years is 14 to 8. Like that's not what are you guys gonna do?
It's like I'm in high school, you're in elementary
you're a
school.
babysitter.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know how it really, my sister was, she went to Mount Gilead a few times. So
okay, cool. What about yourself? What big changes did you notice in yourself after becoming a Christian?
Well, it definitely allowed me to forgive my dad for everything that happened and just really freed me up of a lot of the hurt I had, which is totally, the grace of God to have experienced trauma like that and just completely be healed of it.
Right.
And then, it just totally changed my motives. I wanted what I was living for changed, what I wanted to do why I wanted to do what I wanted to do in the future changed. And it just changed the way I treated people. I, was definitely more motivated to be more patient and loving. But yeah.
So you're involved a little bit with the Next Gen Ministries, right? You do motion night and students, like you're involved in students a little bit.
Yeah, not as much since it's been online, but definitely more involved when we're on campus, just because with my editing schedule, it was hard to.
Do you feel like that gives you your story becoming a Christian when you were 13 or 14 and dealing with the things that you dealt with? Do you feel like that's given you the ability to understand some of these kids that are coming to church that don't have a relationship with God yet and relate to them a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so. And I think what I experienced with my dad, at the very least, allows me to relate to other kids who have separated parents or divorced parents or a parent who's walked out on them.
Do they trust you more because they find out that you have a similar story or a tough situation that you dealt with?
I think they definitely feel more open to sharing what they're going through or their family situation, because I vividly remember when I was in high school and going through all that, my neighbors would be like, "Where's your dad? Like, we haven't seen him home." And it was honestly embarrassing to have to explain it. And so, having experienced what I've experienced, people can at least see, okay, I'm not alone in this. Like, someone else has experienced this too. And it's not their shame to carry. And it's hard to realize that when you're in high school or middle school. But, I think it's an opportunity to talk about it and encourage people into a relationship with Christ.
Did you ever feel like some blame on yourself for it? I'm sure that there was at some point you felt like it was your fault that your dad was gone. It sounds like I don't come from a split family, but I've had a lot of friends that have come from split families, and they talk about a time where they felt like it was their fault. Is that ever something you experienced?
No, thankfully.
Yeah.
And I think that was God protecting me before I even knew it. 'Cause I don't know. I grew up more mature than a lot of my peers. And I think God allowed me to process it and be like, you're not involved in this. You're just affected by it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
thank goodness.
What advice, if you could go back to 13-year-old Erika now, what would be the main piece of advice you would give her?
Probably just not to look for my identity in other people and popularity and status, because that's what got me into trouble.
Mm-hmm. It's
what got
tough.
me suspended.
It's tough. Yeah. You got suspended? Were you a troublemaker?
Not a troublemaker, but just one mistake that got me suspended, and I learned my lesson.
Do you want to share the mistake?
No.
Okay, I won't pry then. Right after you became a Christian, you became very involved in Spring Hills. What was your experience when you first started serving, being around those people? Was it like a breath of fresh air?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd call it a breath of fresh air, but it was fun. Like, I always really enjoyed coming on the weekends. There was a couple girls that I served with very regularly, and then there's two people who are still in our kids ministry to this day, Lisa and Lindsay Dexter, and I had served with them a few times, and so it's really cool to see them still, when we can have kids ministry actively involved in that, because they've been there before me, so at least 10 plus years.
Do you have more of a passion for serving in the next gen ministries because that's where your life was changed?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's definitely, I think that, middle school, high school, and kids too, you're more influenced and you're more, just impacted by people's stories and seeing God work in their lives. And so it's definitely, like, I don't know the percentage, but it's a crazy percentage of people who are like, they're like more likely to accept Christ before they're 18.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to get the gospel out, and, kids go through so much, and I think that, they need Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone needs Jesus.
Of course.
But.
Yeah. So now you and I both went to Azusa Pacific. I'm not technically alumni because I wasn't able to finish down there, but what was the reason you picked Azusa?
Because I couldn't afford Biola.
Was it that much more
being
expensive?
Honest, it was going to be $10,000 a year more for me.
No way.
Yeah. Because, like, I really liked both schools, but Biola, I liked that everyone there was a Christian, whereas Azusa, you had certain requirements.
It was a little more of an outreach.
Yeah, it was, which is good. But I preferred Biola, and it's closer to Disneyland. Who doesn't like that?
So you picked Azusa. Earlier in high school, I mean, as a Christian school, obviously, did you have another college in mind before you became a Christian? Maybe, I mean, I guess you were like in junior high before that, huh? So.
Yeah. No, I, was like, whatever state school.
Okay.
I wasn't one of those people who were like, I'm going to Stanford or I'm going to UC Berkeley.
You didn't have some big aspiration.
No.
I had San Diego State in my mind for some reason when I was 13.
Yeah.
I think just because of
the
we
beach.
went to San Diego when I was a kid, and I was like, well, this place is pretty awesome. I want to go. I want to go play basketball here. Do you ever want to go back to school to get an advanced degree? Oh wait, what is your degree in?
Business management.
Okay, so yeah, do you ever want to go back and get an advanced degree?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I'd be intrigued to do something more in either like marketing, because you can still use a lot of that in social media and marketing, getting people excited about events in ministry still.
Yeah.
With our outreach events, and then even something a little more practical and creative with doing design and stuff like that. But I've also learned so much as I've gone that I don't necessarily need it.
Right.
So
at Azusa, I had the experience of actually having made some pretty poor choices on my own part and realized that the plan that God had for me was completely different than what I was trying to lay out. And then, of course, I'm making some bad decisions, and then things didn't work out the way that I wanted them to. What was your experience at Azusa like? Did you have a very uplifting experience that drew you closer to God, or was there challenges? Because some of the challenges that come with it are there are a lot of non-Christians around. There's a lot of people would say that Azusa is a party school, and there was a lot of parties, especially when I was there. Now we were, what year were you there? 2013
to 2016.
Okay, you were almost 8 to 10 years after me then. So maybe it was completely different. But at the time that I was
you
there,
are old, Garrett.
I am old. It doesn't make me happy. But when I was there were a lot of all those apartments around the campus were not campus housing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they were all kids that lived there they had parties and all that stuff. So I have no idea if that changed once it became campus housing. But yeah, what was your experience like?
I mean, so my first roommate, one of our first conversations was her complaining that her mom talks about God too much. And I was like, oh,
you're okay, not going to like me.
We're not going to be super close, but we can still be friends. And she's a Christian too, but it just kind of sounded like, maybe that's all her mom would talk about with her. And she's
or maybe
like,
your mom was talking about it in a religious way rather than a relationship with Christ.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like being too legalistic or whatever.
Yeah.
So we didn't hit off great. I didn't connect with anyone in my hall. I didn't connect with anyone in my classes. I had one other friend there, but she was working a lot on campus. And so I was kind of like, oh, gosh, do I even want to be here? Like, I have no friends. I wanted to be at Biola this whole time.
Yeah.
And I had some friends who were at Biola, and they talked me into Disney Pass. And I spent my entire first semester off campus, which didn't help my problem of not having friends on campus. And so I really didn't connect with anyone until a year and a half in.
You were becoming friends with the enemies. That's what happened. You were friends.
I know.
No, we actually. So me and my roommates, we had Disneyland passes. I've had a Disneyland pass. Well, not now, but I got a Disneyland pass when I was 14. That was the first one I had. Yeah. And at that time, when you bought a Disneyland pass, if you renewed it, you always stayed into that price. Yeah. So when I was in college, I'm paying $170 for an annual pass, like the deluxe one, and my friends are all paying $400 for it.
Yep, that was me.
But we would go to Disneyland. I mean, 2-3 times a week and go by Biola and pick up our friends from Biola and go. I would go do homework in Disneyland. Oh my gosh. People are like, "What are you doing?"
Many people did that.
I loved it. It was great.
And it's motivating. Get it done so you can go on the rides.
That's or see the shows. That was our big thing. So when did you start feeling called into ministry? You graduated from Azusa in 2017, right?
Yes.
And then you started working here not long after.
2016. December 2016. I was there for 3.5 years.
Oh, December 2016. Mm-hmm. Okay. You graduated in 3.5 years?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Caitlin did that too. No, Caitlin did it in 3 years. Jeez. I don't know how you guys did that.
I came in with a few AP
Super
classes.
senior.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I switched schools too. That didn't help me.
Yeah.
Because you do a Bible class at Azusa, it's not going to work at a state school. They don't care.
They don't want that.
They don't care. Feeling called into ministry.
So I knew I loved being at church. I knew I loved serving. I served a ton, to the point where Kiki was like, I'm going to have you be my intern when you come back on summer break. And I was like, okay, great. And so I did that a few years, but I was kind of like, by the end of college, I was kind of like, gosh, I don't think I want to work in ministry. Like, I just had like a couple not a great experiences, and I just felt like I kind of needed a break from being so involved in church. And like, I still wanted, I was still involved in like small groups and stuff like that, but I was just kind of like, gosh, I don't know if I want to be there all the time. And so I was looking at more marketing jobs when I was graduating. And I tried to stay down in LA right after I graduated for that first semester after. And I applied to jobs all the time, hardly got any interviews, and then couldn't even get a job at like Target or Starbucks. Like, they wouldn't even call me back. And so after, you're paying rent with no income for a while, you can't really pay for it anymore. And so I ended up moving back right before Easter 2017 and served all weekend because I was like, I've got nothing to do. Like,
I remember
use
that.
me.
You were here the entire time because that was when I met you.
Yeah.
And you were setting up the flowers on the
flowers.
stage. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that was...
Allergies were... I
rampant.
Never dealt with allergies in my life, but when you come to this area, everybody's saying allergies are worse here because of some cross-pollination or something like that. And then they put a garden on the stage.
Yeah.
And it was like all of us. It looked amazing. It was great. But all of us, scratchy throats. Yeah. We had like bottles of allergy meds back here. We were just like, hey, make sure you take some non-drowsy allergy medication for our 12 services or whatever we did that year. Once you were in ministry, did you feel like that was where you were going to be for a while, or were you like, sure, I'll do an internship or an interim period? I don't know. When you got hired here, were you
hired on part-time, or were you full-time right off the bat?
Well, so I served all Easter weekend, and I realized, gosh, no, I really do love being in ministry. Like, I just, wasn't in the right place or whatever when I was in school. And so I asked if I could, if there was an opportunity for a full-time job, if I could be considered here. And so I just kept serving, and they were able to contract me for a little bit, doing some social media and then helping out at events and stuff like that. And then when we redid budgets, July 2017, I got hired full-time as assistant producer, which I say is a fancy word for a lot of hats.
Yeah. Now, Spring Hills, we didn't have a very strong social media presence prior to that. I remember actually when we were interviewing, looking stuff up, and there just wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like, there was, you could tell there were some things where it was like,
they tried.
A couple months before, it was like John White had like a come to church today, but then it was like there was no other thing for 3 months before that. So it wasn't a strong online presence. How did you really figure out that was a spot that you could really be valuable in ministry?
Well, I mean, honestly, it was kind of something I just fell into. They were like, you're the young person on staff.
Trendy was the word, right?
Yeah, trendy too. And so they gave me a camera, Caitlin's old camera.
Oh, yeah.
And then just had me start taking photos and things like that. And I just started doing it, started researching like what churches do with social media.
Yeah, did you learn any of this in school?
No.
Because I know my sister-in-law it's social media marketing. Like, that's a thing now. So your job is pretty unique because there wasn't a social media presence for churches in 2006, 7, 8 when I was getting started in ministry. Mm-hmm. But now it's crucial, and you were integral at starting that here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a social media presence, and so I got to take that on and really develop it and develop the Spring Hills brand through our social media. And so when you look at our social media, it's, there's a consistency in the voice, the things we say, the things we share, and, the actual visuals of things, just to kind of when, it pops up in people's feed, they're like, oh, that's Spring Hills. That's my church. Yeah.
Consistency in ministry is something that I think is missing in a lot of smaller churches because you don't necessarily have the resources to hire somebody to do that for you.
So they're getting pre-made graphics all the time.
Even I'm older than you. I'm not that much older than you. I think I'm 7 or 8 years older than you. But I grew up in a time where Facebook, you had to have a college email address to have a Facebook account. Instagram wasn't a thing yet. Mm-hmm. Twitter wasn't a thing yet.
MySpace was dead.
MySpace was dying because Facebook was killing it. But it was one of those things where I did not grow up with it at all.
Yeah.
So I'm not good at social media. Mm-hmm. And there really is like a craft to it.
Yeah.
So did you grow up with social media? Do you feel like it prepared you to be able to do this?
I started using Instagram in high school, actually, right when it had come out. So I had experience, but I don't know. I mean, I wasn't like a guru at it or had a ton of followers or anything or really knew what I was doing.
Right,
I was just kind of sharing the things I like to do. And it's funny because now, like, I don't love using social media. I mean, I think it's very important in ministry. One of the things I've heard that's really stuck with me is you have people 1 hour a week at church. So how do you minister to them for the other 167 hours in the week?
I wouldn't even have known that number.
Yeah, I only know it because I've heard it. But yeah, it's like really important because if people, aren't actively in the word or in a small group or anything like that, they're only getting an hour of God a week. And so sharing verses and sharing recaps of the sermon or whatever is helpful and important. And it's more than just, telling someone to come to this event.
Yeah,
it's more about how can you minister to them when they're not there.
I also think it's a good reminder because you set reminders in your phone to do things, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, everybody gets on, I shouldn't say everybody, most people get on social media and you're scrolling through your feed. And I saw the other day you had posted on the church account a photo that said, "See a victory."
Yeah.
And it was something for myself. It just reminds me, like, to think of the song, and then I look at the think of the lyrics of the song, and it's almost like it reminds me to have a devotional. It's a good reminder for me, even though it's a small time to pray or whatever. It actually I'm even here all the time, and it still is a good reminder to me to see the Spring Hills content coming through my feed. Or
even for people who are just like, oh, I haven't been to church in a while, and then you see like church in your feed. You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way to connect with people. Ministry has a lot of behind the scenes stuff happening, and you're integral at a lot of those things. Explain it. So a lot of people, did you ever get the question, so what do you guys do all week?
Yeah.
Because people often think Sundays is when we're working, and that's it.
Yeah.
But so people go, do you have another job? And it's like, no, I worked 112 hours this week, because you've had those weeks where you're like, I legitimately am working from sun up to sundown, or past
sundown.
24 hours in one day. You've had those. So what are some of those things that are behind the scenes that maybe some folks don't know that you do?
Well, I mean, aside from social media, because it does take more than 30 minutes, like some people think, because you're, posting a lot throughout the week.
And you're interacting with people.
Yeah.
I get it, because social media is exhausting to me.
Yes.
Like when you had me do the Instagram takeover, I can't do anything else that day, because it's all I'm thinking about is like, what should I post? How do I do this? And I'm texting people, is this okay? Do I post this? Can I not post this?
I actually personally hardly use it. Like, it's on my phone because I need it for church, but if I didn't have to have it for work, I wouldn't have any social media on my phone.
That's interesting to know.
Because it sucks up so much of my time, and I, go down wormholes. But anyway, I do like the bumper videos that we used to use a lot more before COVID. It's the video that we show about the series before Brett comes up. I, help with other random videos. With Adventure Week, there's a lot of filming and then editing the crafts and the dance team, and a little bit with the skit itself and putting that all together. And then with the services right now, I help edit some of the music and some of the hosting and things like that. So a lot of video stuff that people don't realize, they might think it's time it takes, and they might think, one person does it, but it takes a team of people to pull it off, and because it's time consuming, and you want it to look nice and things like that. And
each week when you guys, so you and Ashley are primarily doing the editing of the music part, right?
Yes.
And so, and then we'll talk about the guy that does the music editing. Erika had an eyebrow raised when I said that. And for those of you who know Erika, we're talking about Israel, who she's close to. But you guys do the editing of the music portion, and then Kiki does the sermon, and then Kath does the lyrics. And so you guys have 4 people working on putting that service out every week.
Just
now, obviously,
visual.
You get quicker at it.
Oh, for sure.
Because the first time I think we did that was
it took like all week.
Easter, right?
Yeah.
And that was basically like an Adventure Week editing type week, right?
And we learned how to do it that week too. We didn't know how to edit the music in a way where you could
how to film it.
Yeah, and where you could have all these different shots and line it up perfectly and things like that.
Yeah, so nobody on the staff has any film background. It's just you guys have figured it out on your own YouTube tutorials, and a few people that have come through that you ask a question. And even I did do film classes, but we're talking 2006.
Yeah,
so
things have changed.
Way different. And now, and honestly, it was exhausting.
Yeah.
Like now, even when I do the kid stuff, I told Kath the other day, I'm like, it just exhausts me because it's not something that comes naturally to me.
No,
Seeing what I need to see and all that stuff.
For sure.
But you guys learning how to do it on your own and then putting in the hours that you're doing, it's amazing that you're able to, first of all, learn how to do it. Second of all, get quicker at it to now you guys were editing a service and Adventure Week.
That was
2 weeks in a row, right? Because Adventure Week, you guys were editing the crafts and all that stuff the week before, and then it was like, the skit and the worship and all that stuff that was going on. So the work behind the scenes is an insane amount that a lot of people react with, wow, you guys just need a break. And I always say when that happens, after Christmas and there's those weeks or ever somebody's like, wow, you guys just need a break. I'm like, the reason that we're in ministry though is because we love doing it.
Yeah.
It's not something that we're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. We love being a part of it. It's fun to do it. So explaining to somebody what you do throughout the week, what would you say to somebody that's like, wow, you just do too much?
I don't know what I'd say to them. I mean, I usually just kind of say things like, well, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And so that makes it easier. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the week where we worked over 100
you need a break.
hours.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, you need a break.
And I went to bed at like between 3 and 6 a.m. every day. I was a little over
and then
it.
woke up at 7 or 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So you're taking naps. You lived on naps for
yes.
2 straight weeks.
Yeah. Like those are definitely hard weeks and I don't like them, but I do like what I'm doing. And it is awesome to see the next week, you know, like 1,000 kids watching Adventure Week and dancing to it and like hearing all or getting all these emails from people. My kids loved it so much. Like their craft was their favorite or whatever. Like that's always really cool to see and just see that not only is the gospel reaching 1,000 kids, but
their families.
Possibly 1,000 parents too or more. So
and relatives, cousins.
Yeah,
And, I mean,
it makes it worth it.
John sent Adventure Week boxes to his brother's family. I sent them to my sister's family.
Yeah.
Geraldine sent some to her sister.
Yeah.
So it's
this
amazing.
Other church just came here this week to pick up the leftovers and use it at their church in Santa Rosa.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That it's able to. I mean, the resources that we have now is phenomenal. Like if the COVID-19 thing happened.
Sure, I understand.
Oh my gosh, that's my watch.
Siri just interrupted. Hey Siri.
She doesn't
be
understand.
Quiet. But yeah, just the
Siri,
fact that we
Christ
have
died
the Siri, you need Jesus. The amount of resources that we have to be able to do this is really cool.
For sure.
Let's talk now. The real reason you came here was to talk about Israel. I know that.
Yes.
You were like, this is my opportunity. So for those that don't know, Erika is engaged to somebody that you probably see more often than you see her because he's
That's
on
true.
stage. So Israel
And I hardly
is
host.
Israel is he serves in many areas, but he serves on the worship team. He does all the music editing for the services on the weekends because that's one of his jobs he's a music producer and a music teacher. So you've seen Israel. Now, the rumor has it you guys are engaged. Is this correct?
I can confirm.
You can confirm that. Okay, so just tell us a little bit about Israel and your relationship.
Well, we actually met here. Gosh, I guess it's like 2 years ago now when we
Citywide.
did Citywide. Yeah, the first one.
2018.
The first one, yes. And it's
I shouldn't know
2020.
this better than you,
I know.
but I do.
Well, the last couple of years kind of been a blur. Like everything just happened so fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
It just becomes blurrier.
yes.
Just so you know.
Oh, good. As you get old, like you.
Yep.
So yeah, we met through Citywide. Kiki actually was kind of like, oh, like he's really cool, nice guy. And so I was like, okay, whatever. And I don't know, I wasn't like super like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to him. But I did talk to him a few times, and then he came and sang on the weekend a few times. And it wasn't until someone went up to him and was like, you know, praising him, like, oh, you're so talented, like you have such an amazing voice, blah blah blah. And he's just like, oh, thank you, like, you know, it's a gift from God, like all glory to God. And I was like, okay, now I'm interested.
Yeah. You actually heard that he was a humble person.
Because like, well, you know, musicians have a reputation for being really arrogant.
Yes.
And I've seen that even in
Egos
ministry.
are-
Yes.
Even with the most humble people, our egos get in the way.
Yes.
It's hard.
I was like, okay, like you're not full of yourself and, you know, whatever. So that made me interested.
I can also confirm that he is not full of himself.
Yes, no.
For those of you, and I'm going to bring Israel on here too soon. I need to schedule it with him because we're doing the worship one now where I'm
Okay.
getting people to know the worship team
fun.
more and more. So I'm going to bring Israel in here soon. He doesn't know that yet though. So Israel, text me and we'll schedule it out. So yeah, you guys met. Now, one of the things that maybe you guys don't know is Kiki had asked me to go to lunch with Israel
Oh my gosh,
to
I didn't
find
know
out
that.
about him. And I didn't know this because afterwards she said, I'm trying to figure out if we should have him ask Erika out.
Oh my gosh.
And so
I didn't know that till today.
It was somewhat, I didn't know it when I went to lunch with him and just hung out with him. I didn't know that's what she was doing.
asking
because
questions.
she was just like, just find out about him. And then we had him, I did vocal lessons with him for 6 months or whatever it was, right? And every time he'd come here, you would text me or you'd see me and be like, hey, what time's your boy coming? And I'm like,
I did say
I mean, he's
that.
supposed to be here at like 2 or 3. And then there was the midnight motion. And you were like, I think you said these exact words. I could be misremembering this. Homeboy left me on red about something.
I probably said that.
And you
That
showed
sounds
me
like
your
me.
texting conversation. And you're like,
Yeah,
what,
he used to leave
what
his
do I
read
say to
receipts
this?
on.
And then, well, he doesn't respond to text very quick.
No.
So that's kind of it. Now you
doesn't
know
help.
that. It probably wouldn't have meant anything to you then. You're like, yeah, he just hasn't looked at it yet, or he just doesn't respond. But what's it like being in ministry together? Because now that you are both at the same church,
Yeah.
and he's here he's here all the time,
Yeah.
and he's involved in lots of ways. What's it like being in ministry together and planning a wedding together at the same time during COVID?
Well, it's definitely like it's really fun to do ministry together. Like I remember before he was able to be here every weekend, I would always be most excited about the weekends he could be here. And it's just nice to be able to spend, the whole time I'm working, being able to, say hi and passing and stuff like that when we're doing things, and getting, like, he would always come and sit with me during the Saturday night message. But now,
Oh, we remember. The first time that he came here and sat next to you, and I think he put his arm around you or something.
Oh my
Everybody,
gosh.
well, not everybody. Kiki had a texting conversation with a few of us. She's like, FYI, Israel's arm is around Erika. FYI.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So much I didn't know. But yeah, so yeah, it was always very, like, it was nice, and getting to talk about the message and serve together and things like that it was always great. And I feel like our relationship has grown since he's been able to be here more. So
Sure, yeah.
yeah, that's been great. Planning a wedding during COVID is interesting.
And when is the wedding?
A month, or no, 5 weeks from today.
I know this, but
August
other
21st.
people don't know this. We got your invitation the other day, though, and Maverick was so excited.
Oh, and
because
you had to break it to him. He's not invited.
We didn't say that, but he's just excited because he felt like he got a letter.
Oh,
so it's not
okay.
that he's excited to go to the wedding.
Yeah,
He just
yeah.
got the letter because I think it said the Elliott family or something, whatever it said on there.
Mr. and Mrs. Garrett Elliott.
And he just goes, sure, maybe that's what it was. But
Yeah.
he just likes that it's a letter that he can
Uh-huh.
open, and then he sees it, and the invitations look great, by the way.
Thank you. Shout out
And
to Ash.
yeah, but we're going to be taking pictures there. That'll be
Yeah.
fun. So 1 month away, was that the original date?
Yes.
So you got to keep your date.
Yes, thank goodness.
Okay. I did not know the
It'll
answer
be
to that question.
outside and here, so
Yeah.
thankfully, like, you can spread out and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So
Now,
yeah.
one of the things that I was really drawn to about Spring Hills originally was that as a family, the Ablakeotises were able to work together. And to
Yeah.
me, that was really huge because I planted a church with my dad. I know some of the challenges that come along with it. And now my parents and I, we worked really well together. And my sister, she was part of the team also.
Mhm.
But we worked well together. But it is something that I'm drawn to, that families can figure out how to work together, especially with this big of a church.
Yeah.
And now it's gone beyond just the Ablakeotises because there's, Brett, Eve, Kiki, but then Ashley's a cousin. Now Garrett's married into that.
Mhm.
Now there's a lot of couples on staff. John and
Mhm.
Lauren are both here, Garrett and Ashley, Brett and Eve. And then now you and Israel are both here all the time and serving.
Mhm.
So what could we say to some younger couples that maybe they're looking to get into ministry, or
Mhm.
maybe they're serving in ministry? What's some encouragement you could give them, or maybe some advice on how to deal with the adversity that comes along with it?
Gosh. Well, I mean, I would say that, it's definitely very rewarding to serve with, your significant other, and don't feel like you have to serve in the same area of ministry together, because God's gifted you differently, and you're going to be most satisfied in serving when you're using the gifts he's given you. So, like, for instance, I'm never going to sing on stage, even though Israel can.
Oh,
It'd be
we'll
painful. But
I think you were a hype person
hype
one time
person,
for motion
and
night.
it was like so awkward because sometimes you just look out in the crowd and people are dead.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you're hearing
There's
this,
There's a quote on
Be
our
engaged
quote
in
wall
worship.
in the green room that says that says in your name I come alive, not in your name I stand there and look bored.
it's true.
And I bet you could guess who said that. Maybe not. Scott Jacobson. Shout out
yeah.
to Scott Jacobson. We miss you, Scott. Call me.
He loves podcasts too. Oh gosh.
That's fine. I'll let everybody know. Erika has 2 water bottles here.
One's
and-
coffee.
Oh, one's coffee. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we're talking about ministry, being with your significant other in ministry. What's you said it's rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the challenges? Is it? I mean, like the hours. You're talking about these days where you're working.
Yeah. So like they're, I mean, if you're just, serving as a volunteer, you're probably never gonna be putting in as many hours as us on staff. I would be shocked, and if you do, wow, thank you so much. You're a huge help.
Another thing that I've really appreciated about not just the staff but just the church is the people that are in charge of the ones that are working lots of hours are working more hours. Like Kiki, for example.
Yeah,
if Kiki's because Kiki's my immediate superior, right? So if she's got me working, doing a bunch of projects, longer hours, there's no like, oh, but
it's not like she taps out at 40.
Tap out, yeah. Like she's working more hours than anybody when she's doing that. Adventure Week, and you guys are all here.
Yeah.
Crazy hours. But yeah. So some of the challenges.
Yeah. So like there was a couple weeks straight where I didn't get to hang out with him because I was working so much, and then he's also editing music for the weekend services. And so sometimes it would be like I wouldn't like our schedules just wouldn't line up. And so
especially right when we first started doing it, because there was no template, there was no you weren't used to it.
And we were
yet,
like, what are we doing and how long are we doing this for?
Right. Oh my gosh.
So
that question's still here. That's what's
yes.
crazy. I remember thinking when we first started thinking about doing outdoor services, Kiki saying, I don't know if we can sustain doing both. And now here we are 8 weeks in, or whatever. No, 8 weeks, 6 weeks.
I think like 6. Yeah.
6 weeks in and doing both. And I mean, it's pretty amazing that God's put this staff here to be able to do this. It's amazing. So I want to ask you, are there any moments to you that stand out as biggest times of growth and understanding in your relationship with God?
Yeah, I would say when I was in college and I didn't have any friends, that was a huge time of growth because it was like I had no one else. And so I turned to God in that. And that was, I just grew a lot. I came to an understanding that, that just because you don't have friends doesn't mean you're alone, and God's always with us. And, yeah, so that was a huge time of growth. And then, gosh, I don't know. I would say like I've been sanctified, I guess, through being on staff because, you just mature and you work with people who do have different ways of doing things than you.
Yeah,
and so it's really helped to give more grace in like, okay, they're doing it different than me, or like they're taking long and I'm having to wait on them to finish something so I can have that piece to finish my piece. And so it can, as with any job, like that can be a challenge, but I would say that, I've had the perspective that just give grace to people because we're all learning together. And especially now, like huge learning curve with everything. So we're all just having to extend a lot of grace, and
tension was high over those first few weeks of this, just because everyone's like trying to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
Getting put into spots where we're not feeling comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Like
don't feel equipped.
Hey, doing this is not my strength, but we need you to do it. I do feel like God's put me in ministry for a reason. And part of that is my willingness to do something as best as I can. And it's hard to continue to do things when you don't feel like it's your strength. Now, we talk about truly understanding the gospel very often around here because that's our goal, right? It's very important to you personally, not that it's not important to the rest of us. It's very important to you personally that the gospel is being presented clearly and accurately. Do you remember when you really understood it and that became clear to you what the gospel really was? Was it really early on in your relationship with God?
I mean, I would say, when I became a Christian, I understood it, and I understood it in the most basic form of, you're a sinner, Christ died for you, and you have you can never do enough good things to work your way into heaven and work your way into a relationship with God. And so I understood it in its most simplest form then. And, since then
you
I've
build on
grown.
It.
Yeah.
What's something that you're super thankful to God for, but maybe you don't acknowledge enough?
I would say being in ministry, because, I do thank God a lot for it, but not on a daily basis by any means, or maybe even a weekly basis. But I am always very thankful, like getting to do what I'm called to do and what I love to do, and reach people and just see the life change and just see more souls won to Christ, you know? So it's always very rewarding.
And it's always an eye-opener. I think we were delivering the Adventure Week boxes.
Oh, yeah.
And there was the very first one that I went and delivered a box to. It was a mom that forgot to pick them up, and she felt terrible. And she was like, she's in tears going, thank you so much for bringing these. I felt so bad that my kids were going to miss out on this. And so we started texting you guys while you were editing the videos and pulling an all-nighter. We were texting you the encouraging, like, hey, these families need this. And it's one of those things that I often just go, I forget how much people need what we're doing here and why God's put us here sometimes, and why I should be thanking him constantly that I get to be a part of it. Before we get to our last little, by the way, I'm going to do some rapid fire questions at the end that are just kind of random.
Okay.
And so far everybody's failed miserably at this because they can never answer them, but I'm going to try it again. I think you'll be fine. But the last question I want to ask you just about your relationship with Christ, your spiritual walk. What are some practices that you do on a regular basis that help you grow in your relationship with Christ?
Reading my Bible, definitely. And then I have a really hard time staying focused when I pray, and so I'll journal them out, and that's always helped me to really just get my thoughts down and talk to God, in a more focused way. I'm like the dog from Up when I'm just praying in my head. But I think the 4-4 prayer method that we did a few months ago, it helped so much, because it's like, what am I doing just going to God being like, I need this, this, and this?
Yes.
It's so much better to praise God first for all that he's given us and all that, and then work your way to, and just like acknowledging who he says he is in scripture, and then just working your way into request with God.
Yeah. That's awesome. Actually, I will ask one more question about your spiritual walk. People that are new Christians today, during this time with COVID-19 and the stresses, the unanswered questions, just the up in the air things, just words of encouragement for them that you would tell them as a new Christian, how to have hope in Christ. Is there anything that you would give them advice or encouragement with?
I mean, I would say, looking at the world today, it's very evident that we need Christ, and it's very evident that the world can't fulfill it, and that the world is a very broken place. And so don't ever put your hope in the world. It's clearly just going to disappoint you. Only put your hope in Christ, and stand firm in that, and stand firm in God's truth, because it's the only thing that's going to hold up under the pressures of the world. So,
yeah. Well, I'll also ask a couple other questions within these random rapid fire questions that maybe will also be encouraging to some people. But first, if you could go back in time, or maybe let's not go back in time. Let's just say if you could pick anyone on earth currently alive first to have a conversation with, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I threw this at you right off the bat. So far everybody's reacted that way. And I'm like,
I don't really care.
I have like 9 people on my list. I'd be like, I would love to talk to this person or this person or this person.
Who's the guy? The guy who did the American Gospel documentary. The one who was super involved. Washer? Paul Washer?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He'd be interesting to talk to.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one.
He's alive.
And you would basically, if you could sit down, this is my thought, is you could sit down with somebody like this one-on-one and ask them whatever you want, and you're going to get an honest answer. That's kind of my thing with it. Like, and I have all my different answers, but today's not about me. If you could pick anyone, now let's go to the same question, anyone from the Bible, and don't give the obvious answer of Jesus, but anyone from the Bible to sit down and have a conversation with, who would it be?
Probably Moses, because
That's what Brett said.
Really? Okay. Well, just kidding. He, I don't know. He led the Israelites, and it was just, when I was reading Exodus, it was just one of the things that became very evident to me is that God has so much grace for us, because he kept providing things for them, and they would turn towards God in that, and then a few days later they'd turn their backs on him again.
Unbelievable. We talked about this for the series recap the other day, and I'm like, if I could go back and just to look at a reaction after Moses, he leads them out of Egypt, and then the dude turns to him and says, "What'd you do? Just bring us out here to die? We should just go back to Egypt and serve them instead of die out here."
Yeah.
His facial expression to that probably was priceless.
Oh,
like,
I know.
are you joking me? Like, I can't. Can you imagine just like
if
the
I was
reaction?
Moses, I'd want to be like, okay, then go. But he probably didn't say that. He probably said something profound.
Just get out of here, then go back to Egypt. Yeah, I mean that was one of those things that I'm like looking back and just facial expressions of biblical characters to me has always been fascinating to think like, I wonder how he reacted.
Yeah.
Like we see the words, but to see it. All right, let's do these now. These are rapid fire questions. What's your favorite genre of music?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I like I listen to a decent amount of country and worship music. Those are probably my top two.
I'll tell you the reason why I asked that question is because I got to find an intro song.
Oh.
Gonna have to figure it out. John was easy because we are both from country towns.
Yeah.
Cow towns. Do you have a favorite musical artist?
Need to Breathe has been one of my top ones, and Paramore.
Need to Breathe's got a little bit of a folky vibe.
Yes.
Paramore's a little emo.
Yes.
Are you an emo girl?
I have an Angsty playlist on my Spotify.
I like that you call it Angsty.
It's literally named Angsty.
That's funny. Angsty playlist. I have my playlists are all mixed up by artists or years.
Oh, okay.
Because for like it's like my junior year of high school, I remember the stuff I was listening to, that kind of thing. Okay, favorite food?
Oh my gosh.
Or just food?
Yeah, food. I love probably, sushi, pizza would be up there pretty. Oh, no. Mexican food. Specifically, carne asada tacos.
We should point out that your soon-to-be husband is half Mexican, right? And then
half Costa Rican.
Costa Rican. I always forget Costa Rican. I always want to say Dominican, but sorry, Israel. But let's see. Oh, can you cook?
Yes.
Can Israel?
Yeah.
Is he naturally?
He actually makes very good ribs. Those one
interesting.
Of the things he's made that is like,
and that's not necessarily a Mexican food dish.
No,
or is it?
He doesn't cook Mexican food.
No way.
Well, yeah. I mean, his dad's from Mexico and his mom's from Costa Rica, and his mom did more of the cooking, but she doesn't necessarily cook Costa Rican food.
Now, this is going off a tangent here, but you've met his family, but have you met his extended family at all?
No.
Okay, and they're
coming to the wedding.
Are you learning Spanish?
I was learning more Spanish before COVID happened, and then I just kind of got too busy working.
Yeah.
So.
Do you see his family often?
Yeah.
Or are they not really around?
No, I see him like probably,
Are they all local?
Weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
His immediate family.
Does he have siblings?
3 brothers.
I've never met any of his brothers. Have you met them all?
Yeah, all younger than him.
Cool. Mm-hmm. That's cool. What about your dream car? Do you have a dream car?
No.
No? Favorite vacation spot?
I mean, I haven't been a ton
or
of
a dream
places.
Vacation?
Okay, dream. I want to go to Italy, the Amalfi Coast. It's where we want to go on our honeymoon.
Oh,
and
nice.
now you can't go to Italy.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
that sucks.
But you guys get to go to Cabo, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Lord willing.
Now, you played sports when you were younger. Are you a fan of sports now?
Yes. I mostly only watch like baseball though on TV.
Has Israel gotten you into football?
Oh, I mean, I played soccer growing up.
Okay.
So
Soccer.
I call it soccer.
With that just thick American accent.
But I never
soccer.
really watched it. Like he's
into it.
Oh yeah, he
was a really good soccer player.
And he'll sometimes set alarms to get up at like 5 a.m. to watch the game.
The EuroLeague stuff.
Yep.
That's cool. What about a favorite worship song right now? Or overall, is there one that stands out to you as one that was impactful to you?
Not one that stands out to me. I mean, I like a lot of the songs we've been doing on the weekend recently.
Do you listen to ones while you're running or anything like that, like Kiki does?
Definitely not while I'm running. I can't.
What's the music
you
listen to? Angsty?
No, more just like workout playlists.
Okay, like hip hop?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Maybe I need a hip hop song.
Oh my gosh.
All right, this is a really important question. Favorite pastor?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, favorite senior pastor, Brett.
Brett Avlikiotis. You heard it here. Erica's favorite pastor. I actually, the one that I wrote was favorite sermon series that we've done. Do you have one?
Galatians. No,
Galatians?
I'm just kidding.
Breaking Free?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, a lot. I don't know. I really don't know.
I really liked the one that he did on the Love series. That
That
was really cool.
Relatable.
Was it
You
relatable?
Asked For It is always really good too.
That one is fun.
It's very practical.
It's also very
people.
topical, which is
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to know what people are wanting to know.
Yeah.
Which is cool. But yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming down. Is there anything else that we should know about you that you'd want to share?
No.
Okay, and do you have any requests that you want your intro song to sound like? It doesn't matter because I'm going to choose what I want, but
just don't use a worship song
I
because
don't
that
use
feels
worship
underwhelming because it feels like this should be more epic.
oh, epic.
You know what you should do?
Nope, I know what I'm
you
using.
You should use a song that you think should be my intro song at my wedding because I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Like to walk down the aisle?
No, like to enter the reception.
Oh. Okay, well, thanks, Erika, for being here and letting us get to know you a little bit better.
Of course.
Say bye to everybody.
Bye.